My name is Callie Winslow. I'm Otsdokuz. And I own a breakfast spot called the Yellow Spoon in Asheville, North Carolina. 3 weeks ago, my 16-year-old daughter spent 8 hours cooking a birthday dinner for 19 relatives to honor her grandmother's 65th. At 4:20 that afternoon, one text from my mother wiped it all out. Change of plans. We're doing the restaurant instead. Adults only. I didn't fight her. I didn't say a word in the family chat. I made one quiet decision instead. By 30 the next morning, my mother was standing on my porch, ringing the doorbell like she wasn't sure the house would let her in. In 65 years, nobody had ever made her wait on a porch. Here's what she didn't know that night, and about the 22 years that led up to it. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where quiet women finally get loud. If you've ever swallowed something for the sake of keeping the peace, you already know where this is going. Tell me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe. Run a diner for 5 years and you learn who's hungry and who's keeping score. My mother, Eleanor, runs every family gathering like she's seating a courtroom, a good table, and a lesser one. For 22 years, I was the staff. My brother Grant walked in with wine and got a toast. I walked in after 3 days of cooking and got asked where the napkins were. I wasn't the golden child or the troublemaker. I was the caterer. It took my daughter's 16th year for me to notice the apron I'd never taken off. My daughter Harper loves people quietly, with her whole chest. She's worked the Saturday line at my diner since she was 14. When Grandma Eleanor's 65th came up, Harper didn't buy a card, she built a menu, texting relatives one by one to ask what dish made them happiest. Then testing my mother's own grandmother's blackberry cobbler 4 times until she got it right. She paid for it herself. $275 of tip money. It's my gift. Mom, it only counts if it costs me something. She hand-lettered 19 place cards, teaching herself calligraphy from videos. Grandma's card got a gold border, redone twice. I watched her tape the menu to the fridge and thought, this is the best of us. I had no idea it was a test my mother was about to fail. I didn't walk her into this blind. 3 weeks out, I confirmed it in writing Saturday. Our house. 6 o'clock. My mother wrote back one word, fine. A week later, I asked again in front of witnesses. She waved it off, then turned to her friend Marilyn and said, Callie's place is cozy. Homey. Simple. Marilyn smiled with just the bottom half of her face. In my mother's dictionary, cozy is a floor she believes she's above. I heard it, filed it, and translated it the way I always did. She's old-fashioned. She'll melt when she tastes the cobbler, the day of the party. Harper was up before I was. By 7, the kitchen looked like a real line stations and painter's tape. A timeline scheduled backward from 6. Cornbread dressing. Mac and cheese doubled for the cousins. Green beans cooked the way my late father liked them. Yeast rolls from scratch. At 4, she stood in the doorway, surveyed 8 hours of work, and let herself smile. At Patrudoazich. My phone lit up. The text went to the whole family chat, all 19 of us, 40 seconds before the one she sent me privately. That detail alone tells me everything about the order of operations in my mother's heart. Change of plans. Everyone. Marilyn booked the private room at Ferrante's as my birthday gift. We're eating there tonight. Adults only, please. Then to me alone. You can bring the cobbler if you want. Adults only. I read it 3 times. The way you reread a diagnosis hoping it changes. My daughter was upstairs putting on the dress she'd bought for tonight. On my stove sat 5 finished dishes for 19 people. I called my mother. Voicemail, she was at the salon. I knew from the photo she'd posted. Captioned 65, and fabulous. I texted Mom. Harper cooked all day. Please call me. 9 minutes later, don't make this difficult. Callie. Marilyn went to a lot of trouble. A restaurant is simply more appropriate. Adults only. Twice in one afternoon. Not a slip. A policy. I walked to the kitchen doorway to figure out what to say. And didn't have to. Because Harper was already standing there in her new dress. Her own phone in her hand. She'd watched her own dinner get canceled in real time by the person it was for. She set her phone down, picked up the sugar shaker, and went back to finishing the cobbler. Without looking up, she said, in a voice so level, it broke my heart cleaner than crying could have. It's okay. Mom. I'm used to it. 16 years old. 8 hours into a gift. And her first instinct was to comfort me. I stood there doing math. I'd never let myself do the school play missed for bridge night. The birthday moved for brunch. The swim meet nobody came to. Every time. I'd knelt down and translated Grandma loves you in her own way. I thought I was building a bridge. Standing in that doorway, I finally saw what I'd actually built. My daughter had learned the family rule book by heart, and I was the one teaching it to her. One gentle translation at a time. I grew up with 2 tables at every holiday, the dining table, and a card table in the den with one short leg. I ate at that card table until I was 21, when I got promoted for getting engaged. Because a fiancé apparently made me a full household. I want to be fair, my mother isn't a cartoon. When my diner's pipes burst in 2023, she showed up at 6 the next morning with a shop vac and never brought it up again. She knows how to love with her hands. She just can't let love outrank protocol. Standing in my kitchen with her policy glowing on my phone. A question I'd never once asked in 39 years finally sat down at my table. I knew every rule in my mother's book. But who wrote it? The family chat went quiet in public and loud in private. My cousin Renee has 3 kids under 10. My cousin Marcus has a newborn. Adults only had just uninvited 8 people with 4 hours notice. Renee texted me directly, so what? We just leave them in the car. My mother's plan hadn't just erased Harper's dinner, it had sorted the entire family into who mattered and who didn't. The same sorting she'd done my whole life. Just written down this time. With a timestamp. If you've ever watched your child's effort get erased by one careless sentence from an adult who should have known better, tell me in the comments what that sentence was. I read every one. I called my brother Grant, hoping if we pushed on the same wall together it might move. He sighed, the family sigh. Callie, it's her 65th. Don't make it a thing. If this blows up, it's not gonna be Mom. I thanked him and crossed his name off my short list. The last name on it was my husband, Danny. Good men in families like mine come preloaded with peacekeeping software. He listened, jaw working, and said what I'd said to myself for 22 years. One dinner. Callie, we grit our teeth. We go. We come home. Then he walked past Harper for a glass of water and stopped. She wasn't crying, she was wrapping the food. Methodically. Into containers labeled in Sharpie. 8 hours of a gift being folded up like clothes that didn't fit. I watched 20 years of keeping the peace drain out of my husband through the floor. He set the glass down, looked at me, and asked the only real question left in the house. What are you going to do? I didn't fully know yet. What I knew was my mother had one call left coming. She answered on the first ring. Victory already banked. I offered 2 options with no teeth in them. Bring the food to Ferrante's and call it family style. Or move the restaurant to Sunday and do tonight at our house. Silence. The expensive kind. Then, cool as good. China Ferrante's is not a potluck. I'm not rearranging my birthday around a teenager's project. A project. 8 hours. $275. 4 test batches of her own mother's cobbler. The room seats 10. Wear the green dress. And she hung up. 19 people were invited. She'd already decided which 9 of us counted as furniture. I walked into the dining room. 19 hand-lettered place cards. Same ink. Same care for every single one. Except Grandma's gold border. Done twice. I picked it up. On the back. In Penjul. In Harper's real handwriting. Happy 65th. From your sous chef. 5 years, she'd been carrying that plan. I stopped being a translator. I set the card back and left everything exactly as it was. At patru patruzeci. My mother escalated from policy to terms I expect you and Danny at Ferrante's at 7. Alone. Don't bother with Thanksgiving. Every sentence a hostage. For 22 years, I'd paid every one of these in full and called it being the bigger person. I sat on my bed and audited myself. Not her. The play missed for bridge night. I'm the one who said Grandma loves you in her own way. Every translation had felt like protection. Sitting there, I finally heard them the way Harper must have filed them, a fluent adult explaining, over and over, why her hurt shouldn't be believed. My mother built the ranking system, but I was the one who taught my daughter to accept her rank politely. I could not win Harper a better seat at my mother's table. Nobody could. That table was built so someone would always sit below the salt. The only move that had ever existed was to set a different table entirely. I found Harper on her bed. Sound off on a cooking video, which is what she does instead of crying. Here's what I'm thinking. I said, we open our doors tonight. Exactly as planned. Some people will go to the restaurant anyway. It might be 4 of us eating 5 dishes. Monday will be ugly. If we do this, you're not a kid whose party got canceled. You're the chef. It's your call too. She waited, then paused her video. The flatness finally gone from her face. If it's 4 people, I'm still plating it in courses. A beat later. Quieter, you'd really do that. To Grandma, I told her the truest thing I'd said all day. Not to Grandma. For you, there's a difference. She nodded once. Chef to chef. I wrote 2 drafts to the family chat and deleted both, one a prosecution. One just sarcastic. Anything in her language kept me sitting at her table. Just angrier. An invitation doesn't argue. It just opens a door and stands there. Warm. Porch light on. At 5 o'clock. I texted my mother privately. One last time. Mom, I love you, and happy birthday. I'm not coming without Harper. Dinner's still at our house at 6. The seat at the head has your name on it in gold. It'll be yours if you walk in at 8. Either way, I'm done choosing between my mother and my daughter. The 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again, a woman who has never sent a first draft. Then, under my message, 1 word surfaced, seen. Beş, üçp, me. Read and dismissed like a waiter. It hurt. But it burned the last bridge I might have stood on, wringing my hands. At cinci șapte. I sent the same offer to the whole family, 2 photos. The set table and the cobbler. Nothing to argue with. Dinner is still at 6. Exactly as planned. Everything made by Harper. All your favorite recipes. Everyone is welcome. Kids especially. I put my phone face down and refused to check it. At cinci she oped. The doorbell rang. Renee. Her husband. All 3 kids. We were always coming here, she said. The other invitation didn't include my kids, so it didn't include me. Marcus's family followed. Then Aunt Rosalind. Coat already off. Then a cousin with sparkling cider for the chef. 12 people. Counting us. I didn't count the 7 who weren't there, I'll be honest. I noticed. The gold-bordered card sat in front of an empty chair all night. And I never once moved it. But 12 people filled my house wall to wall. Harper tied her apron back on and ran her first real service. Nobody at that table was furniture. I heard about the other party secondhand, 7 adults in a room set for 10. My mother checking her phone twice during the entree. At opt 15. The family chat came back to life. A photo of the cobbler, half gone. The kids' table. Juice boxes raised mid-toast. Then Rosalind. A photo of the place cards. No caption, just a door standing open where 19 people could see it. Harper fell asleep on the couch, apron half-tied, and Danny carried her upstairs the way he used to when she was 7. I stood alone, washing the last pan. And that's when it hit me, not triumph. Nothing that shiny. It's okay. Mom, I'm used to it. I cried quietly into the steam. For a girl who'd taught herself to expect the card table, and for the 22 years of me that handed her the flashcards. My mother hadn't called. Not once. But I finally understood the difference between fear and grief. I could survive my mother's anger. I couldn't survive Harper. At 38. Saying I'm used to it to a child of her own, Aunt Rosalind stayed to dry dishes and gave me, without preamble, the missing chapter of my own mother. She wasn't born like this, she said. 1979. Your mother was 22. First Thanksgiving as a new bride. Her mother-in-law sat her in the kitchen, told her the table was for family. And she wasn't family yet. She ate standing at the counter. Alone. Every holiday. Until your brother was born. Rosalind folded the towel into a square. They ranked her, so the day she got a table of her own. She started ranking too. Doesn't excuse it. But that's where the ink came from. I let that land. It explained everything. It changed nothing. Understanding the ink doesn't unwrite the sentence. I told her. It just tells me how far back the sentence goes. If it were your mother on that porch after a night like that, would you open the door? And on whose terms yours? Or hers? Tell me honestly in the comments. Sunday. Daffand, 30 am. Danny had taken Harper to return the sheet pans. Through the frosted glass, I saw the shape I'd know anywhere, but something was wrong. Stillness. My mother doesn't stand at doors. She sweeps through them. This shape just stood there. Rang once. And waited. A paper bag in both hands like something held in a waiting room. I didn't hurry. Not out of cruelty. I was making myself slow down. Because the woman who usually sprinted to smooth things over had had a long night. And a longer 22 years. And I'd given her the morning off. My mother came in like a diplomat entering a country that voted the wrong way. She clocked the dining room table still extended. Her card still at the head. In front of the chair, nobody had sat in. Something crossed her face and vanished. Like a fish under ice. She sat. Accepted coffee out of habit. And opened with the sentence she'd clearly drafted in the car. The family's saying you split us apart. So here's what we'll do. You post something light and gracious today. Say it was all a mix-up. And we never speak of it again. Not sorry. Not what did I miss. Spin. Mom. I said. In the register I use for burnt orders. I'm not posting anything. I didn't split the family. I set a table. Everyone was invited. You most of all, your name's still on it in gold. People sat where they wanted. That's just what happened. And everyone watched it happen. She set her cup down with the small click that has ended arguments in our family for 50 years. For the first time. The click didn't work. It was my 65th. You had one job. I agreed the number mattered. And said Harper had thought so too, 8 hours worth. Then a bargain. Offered like generosity. Fine. At Christmas. Harper sits at the main table. Are we finished? Even now? She could only imagine the problem as a seating error. Fixable by promotion. 10 years ago, I'd have taken that deal and driven home glowing. This time I just declined it. The way you decline a coupon for a store you've stopped shopping at. That's when it cracked not her temper. Her posture. Her shoulders came down half an inch. And my mother. 65 years and 1 day old. Asked the first genuine question she'd asked me in 22 years. Then what do you want from me? Callie, nothing. With me. We're square. I got everything I needed at 6 last night. It's Harper you owe. She's in the backyard. Go tell her, not me. Her, what her cooking meant. You'll know it went well if she shows you the menu. That's the whole price of this table. She looked at the back door the way soldiers look at open ground. Then she picked up her bag and stood. I watched from the window. Because some conversations you're only meant to guard. Not here. My mother crossed the yard like a stage, with no marks on it, a woman who has commanded every room of her life. Visibly lost on a patch of grass. Harper looked up. Didn't stand. Didn't rescue her either. My daughter is done rescuing adults. And I've never been prouder of a lesson I never meant to teach. My mother lowered herself onto the step beside Harper, not the chair 2 feet away. The step and opened the paper bag. A container. Lid fogged from the fridge cobbler. Rosalind had left it on my mother's porch the night before. With a note, you should at least taste it. The fork was from my mother's own good silver. She'd come armed for a ceremony. I watched her say something. Watched Harper answer. 1 syllable. Watched my mother eat cold cobbler on a concrete step. Slowly. All of it. The dessert her granddaughter had rebuilt from 4 test batches of a dead woman's memory. Whatever she said when she finished. I never asked. And Harper's never fully told me that belongs to the 2 of them. I watched my daughter's shoulders come down for the first time in 2 days. I watched her go inside and come back with the menu. I watched my mother read every line of it with her finger. The way she reads hymnals. They sat there 10 more minutes. An empress and a line cook. And nothing dramatic happened at all. No hug for the highlight reel. Just 2 people at the same level. One of them saying thank you about 40 years late. And the other one, 16 and merciful. Letting it count, on her way out. My mother straightened a picture frame that was already straight and said, not quite looking at me. The seasoning in that dressing. She gets that from my mother. Nobody else ever got it right. Then she left. Spine first. Into the Sunday morning. That was it. 1 inch of ground. Delivered sideways. About seasoning. But I'm fluent in my mother. And I can translate that inch was the whole war. The fallout came in over the week. Grant texted. You actually did it. 50% accusation. 50% awe. 2 club circuit relatives went cool on me for a season. And I let them. Frost thaws or it doesn't. And the same chat that had watched a 16-year-old's gift get canceled with an exclamation point quietly became the place where, that Thursday, Renee asked, dead serious. So, when's the next dinner at Callie's? I didn't gloat. My mother taught me everything I know about narrating a family. And the point of that Saturday was to finally stop. It's been 6 weeks. First Sunday of every month. My table gets extended. And Harper's table is a real thing. Now she plans the menu. The little cousins get cards with doodles. And there's no head of the table anymore. Because she seats people wherever the conversation needs them. My mother came to the first one. She sat in the middle. At a card that read, in the same gold-bordered calligraphy as everyone else's. Simply Grandma. I watched her pocket that card when she thought no one was looking. She missed the second one for a club thing. And here's the part nobody warned me about. It was fine. The door stayed open. Her rank doesn't set the weather in my house anymore. She can sit in the warmth as an equal. Or she can miss it. And either way, the cobbler comes out at 6:15. Harper's applying to culinary school this fall. Her essay opens with a birthday dinner for 12. Halfway through that first Sunday. While the cousins fought over the crispy corners of the mac and cheese. She leaned into my shoulder and said quietly, I'm not used to this yet. I looked out at the loud, unranked gravy-stained table she'd built, and gave her the only inheritance worth passing down. Good, I said. Don't ever get used to it. I spent 22 years asking for a better seat at my mother's table. It turns out the only thing I ever needed to do was set my own. The people who really love you don't need a ranking system to find their chair. That's my story. 8 hours of cooking. 1 text at 420. 19 place cards. And 12 chairs that filled themselves. If someone in your family hands out seats like prizes, maybe this is your sign to set your own table and see who actually shows up hungry. Tell me in the comments, who would you save a chair for? I read everyone. And if this got you somewhere, hit subscribe.